Okay, so hello again. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Yellow House Wellness. My name's Melissa. If you are only catching me for the very, very first time, um, I am using my YouTube channel, this channel, to debrief my breathwork sessions. I'm doing a practitioner program with the School of Breathwork for RBM breathwork. And part of the process is having 36 of your own personal breathwork sessions. There's a theory component, and then, of course, sitting in as an observer during breathwork sessions. So I'm in stage one currently, and this is my debrief of stage one. So this is my 20th consecutive weekly breathwork session. The session last night was a group session and a 90-minute breathe. Goes for about 3.5 hours all up in the group. So I'll talk through my previous intention, which was to explore pleasure and create a new felt sense and relationship with pleasure, allowing myself to experience pleasure and hold pleasure in my body. So, when I say pleasure, I'm just talking about pleasure, joy in everyday life, um, which for me was not something that I ever really allowed myself to have. And so, the day after the breathwork session on this topic, this intention, I actually had the morning free, and I had a bit of a triggering moment where I just kind of sat in this awareness where my partner had the morning free and he just went off and played golf with his free time, which was great for him. But I found myself in this position, this stereotype of what it is to be a woman and what it is to be a mum. And before I can even sit down and explore what lights me up in life, what brings me pleasure in life, I had a list of things that I had to do beforehand. So I had this moment where I was just like, how bullshit is life? How bullshit are the standards, the double standards of the roles of women versus the roles of men? No man that I've ever met has ever, um, said, oh, well, I'd really love to play golf, but before I go and play golf, I have to clean the house and I have to do the washing and I have to, um, do this, that, and the other. No man has ever, at least not at the rooms I've been in, said that. But every woman you meet, even before bedtime, oh, I'm going to go to bed, but before I go to bed, I'm going to do this and I'm going to put that there and I'm going to get this ready for tomorrow. And like it's such a bullshit thing. So just sitting in the idea of, well, yeah, I really want to explore this topic for myself, but I feel the immense responsibility to tend to everyone else before I tend to myself. And, just that in itself is, um, what's in the way of me allowing pleasure into my life. Um, Over the weekend, I also made all of the YouTube videos that I've posted so far. I did them all. It was a really long day, but it was a really fun day. Um, to just go back and see how far I've come. So major win, I believe, major win. I also had a shadow work coaching call with someone who's ahead of me in a program that I'm doing, a shadow work um, coaching practitioner program. And I think being in that setting was really good for me because it forced me to answer questions about myself that I would have otherwise not answered properly. I wouldn't have been completely honest with myself. I would have kind of hidden a lot from myself. So I had that session as well where this new layer of just not feeling worthy, um, not feeling worthy, not feeling beautiful in my own skin and in my own body, and just not feeling like I believed in my body that I was worthy and deserving of things in my life. Um, I also had a moment, it was my nephew's birthday, and whenever we have these kind of get-togethers, I always feel uncomfortable. I always feel uncomfortable and I always feel like I don't really belong. Um, yeah, I don't feel like I belong. I don't feel like I fit in. I don't feel like these are my people. And that's not for everyone. Obviously, I don't feel that way about my parents, but um, the family dynamic, I don't feel like these are my people. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. And I ended up creating my intention around belonging. Um, I did a bit of before the breath work session, I did a bit of like writing all this stuff down in my little book here. And so I wanted my intention to be around worthiness and I wanted my intention to be around belonging. And um, kind of moving through that and talking through that, my intention was I intend to feel a sense of belonging, worthy of being part of a thriving community and tribe, and being accepted as my authentic self. So that was my intention last night. Um, as soon as I talked out my intention, in actual fact, before I talked out my intention, I really felt my body slowing down, unwinding, yawning a lot during everyone else's intention setting, and I started feeling really tired. I started feeling really cold, but where I had contact with the seat behind me, I felt really warm, but everywhere else I was feeling really cold. Yeah, I could really just feel myself slowing down. Um, and yeah, when I don't normally do this, but I turned on my heated blanket on my table, on my bed, my massage bed here, and I don't know. It was just so warm and so cozy. I ended up falling asleep in my breathwork session, but I have no idea how long I slept for, but it felt really soothing. It felt really um, what I needed. Like I said, I was already slowly unwinding and relaxing um, before I laid down, and so that really just enabled me to relax a lot more, just that warmth. Um, actually, I woke myself up a couple of times snoring while I was asleep. And I don't believe I'm a snorer, but apparently I am a snorer. And then when I finally kind of woke up, eyes were still closed, but I was much more conscious. I was listening to the things happening outside of the room. I was um, listening to my partner get frustrated at our kids for being kids because they were making noise and jumping around while he was watching a movie. So I had a bit of a giggle to myself. Um, and I just kind of laid there and I just breathed. It really didn't feel like much was happening. But when I paid a little bit closer attention, there was some really subtle things happening. I was noticing my body, my hips were kind of rocking backwards and forwards. Just these really subtle things that you can definitely overlook. The usual tingles, that sort of thing. And towards the end of the breathe, I had these two thoughts that came into my head. And one of them, the first one that came to me, was actually how I feel about myself is holding me back. How I feel about myself is holding me back from feeling like I belong. And to me, that makes perfect sense because if I'm not showing up because I feel resistant to show up, then I'm not going to put myself out there and I'm not going to make those connections with people. So, of course, that makes sense in terms of my intention. And it also makes sense in terms of my week um, when I look back at that coaching call, and I still put on this persona of being a really, really confident person. And it's not that I'm not, but there's just this little niggly part deep inside me that believes differently. The second thing that came to my mind was actually, it's not that I don't feel like I belong with everyone, it's just certain people. And I kind of, after the breathwork session finished and we were having a little bit of a debrief, I was kind of really thinking this through and um, I realized, yeah, that's true. It's not that I don't feel like I belong with everyone, it's just certain people and then the people associated to those people. And so, those two people being two of my brothers, and their families and their um, wives' sides of the family as well. And um, when I look when I look back on this, there's a few things here. So, um, the age gap between them and myself is 8 years and 5 years. And, I think just them being that little bit ahead in terms of age and where they were at in life, what I remember of them when I was younger was just them screaming and carrying on. Everything was a big deal. Everything was drama, very physically violent and aggressive in the household. Like they were always fighting each other. And I feel like for me, being the type of person I am, I think maybe I wasn't very receptive to them because of that, because I didn't feel comfortable with that aggression, maybe. Yeah, like I remember when, they were 16, 17, 18, them just screaming at the top of their lungs about how much they hated living at our house, how much they hated our rules, and how much they could not wait to leave. And so I really feel like I potentially put a barrier there, because I wasn't comfortable in their presence. Um, I also notice with both of them too that their wives' families are very important. They're always attending things, doing things with the other side of the family. And my observation is our side of the family get none of that. And so, again, I think there's just this kind of like, I don't feel like I belong because I don't feel like I'm wanted. Um, I feel like they want to be with these other people, but they don't want to be with me. Um, and there was also with these two brothers, my parents moved away to Perth. My dad got a working opportunity and we used to do Sunday family roasts every week. And naturally when my mum and dad left, that stopped. And I loved it. I loved doing them. And I said to my brothers, I'm happy to keep continuing this if you guys want to. And of course, they're Their thoughts were absolutely not. I cannot wait for this to be over. And so I continued this tradition with some friends of ours who loved the idea of it. And then, of course, when events came up, people's birthdays came up, and we got the invitation, but I would get the invitation at the last minute, and I'd say, "Well, sorry, I've already got plans." Um, when you're cooking a roast for two families, it's not exactly a cheap venture. So, if the food had already been purchased earlier that day and they've just decided to tell me that, oh, we're doing this, well, sorry, I've already got plans. I've already purchased the food. I'm not going to waste that, like we're a single income family at that time. So I wasn't going to waste that. It's not my fault you're not organized. So anyway, after this happened, the two of them basically told me that I was, not in these words, but this is how it was received, just the biggest piece of shit in the world. And I didn't care about my family and, yada, 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 because they didn't bother to organize in advance their events. Um, I was the bad guy. And so I didn't take very well to that. And I think there's still a little bit of animosity of that in the air as well. I don't think I've really dealt with that. And also, one of these brothers is the type of person who can do no wrong. He's the victim. And, I remember over COVID, for example, he lived in an area where there was a lot of COVID, and my mum was, very caring. Watch out, make sure you're protecting yourself. There's a lot of COVID where you live, blah, blah, blah. And like my brother was just full of aggression and abuse towards her. Even his wife abused her for just trying to say, take care of yourself, essentially. And I stood up for my mum and I was like, you don't need to speak to her like that. And anyway, that got a little bit heated on his end. And again, that type of person that says, well, you're not my sibling anymore. You're not part of my family. I disown you. This is the sort of thing I have been dealing with my brothers. And so, again, it makes perfect sense that I don't feel comfortable in their presence and I don't feel wanted in their presence. But I feel like it was also a really interesting grief for me too, in the sense that it kind of just gave me that awareness of, well, actually, it's not me. It's not me. It's not that I don't belong. It's just that I don't feel comfortable around certain people. But also how I feel about myself. I definitely need to be more confident to put myself out there and initiate conversation with people, instead of just kind of doing my own thing. And I guess it really brings up this sense of curiosity for me, curiosity without judgment, for, well, how do I actually feel about myself? What is really deep inside there? And, and awareness is step one in the process. And so, just having this opportunity to explore and be curious and dig a little bit deeper to what's happening internally for me that is holding me back from being able to show up in this way, to really feel that I am part of a thriving community, to really feel that I am part of a tribe, and to really feel accepted and feel like I belong. So that was my breathwork session from last night. We are in Not May, we're in June 2025. So yeah, I hope you're enjoying following along in my process. And I'm sure a lot of this relates to a lot of people and um just hearing other people talk about things is also it feels really comforting to know that you're not alone. Definitely not alone. We're all in it together, and if I can do it, so can you. So, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I'll be back next week with session number 21. And yeah, debrief about what happened during the week, how it applies to the intention. Um, oh, before I forget, I definitely feel like the outcome of that first question of, well, how do I feel about myself, really ties into my intention from last week as well. So why am I not allowing, what's in the way? Why am I not allowing myself to explore and experience pleasure, what lights me up in life? And I really do feel like that ties into, well, what's in the way of me showing up? What's in the way of me putting myself out there in that capacity? So, yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you next time. So, bye. Bye for now.